back to the Vine Morning Show on a Wednesday morning. I'm Mark, and we welcome those that are watching our YouTube channel today and also on cable TV channel 15 as we have a special guest in the studio with us today as we have Tom Windland. Tom's the director of Wayne County 911, the emergency telephone system based in Fairfield. Tom, good morning, and you're on a different radio right now.
Good morning. Yes, I'm on a different radio.
How are you this morning, my friend?
Great. It's a beautiful day outside.
Boy, it sure is. Going to be a warm one today, yes.
Yes, it's warming right up.
Yes, and that's why 911 is important at this time of the year because 911, how long has it been around, Tom?
911 altogether?
Well,
or in Wayne County?
Well, in Wayne County. Let's start first with Wayne County.
We had a referendum in 2008. The voters passed it on February the 5th, 2008, and then we became functional and operational on February the 15th, 2013. So just a little over 5 years to get up and running.
Now, I know Wayne County we're on, and are most other area counties converted over to 911? I know Hamilton County just recently did, right?
Hamilton County is going to go live next week.
Oh, next week, okay.
All the surrounding counties are live with 911 now.
You know, I saw a statistic the other day. Over 240 million calls are made to 911 in the U.S. each year. Don't you believe that's probably higher than that at this point?
I wouldn't doubt it. I know last year in 2015 we initiated 6,072 incidents. So that's just in Wayne County alone.
Mm-hmm. And also over 70% of 911 calls in the United States are placed from wireless phones, and that rate is increasing. That's pretty high percentage, wouldn't you think?
Yeah. Whenever we started, we had 6,000 and some phone lines, landlines, and that has decreased immensely. We're around 4,000 now. 4,000
now. And have you ever had anyone say to you, I'm kind of afraid to call 911 because they don't know what to expect on the other end, what kind of questions they're going to be asked, but you need to call 911 when you have an emergency.
Yeah, if you have an emergency, by all means call. And what we do, we run into problems with people not calling in their control burns and stuff like that. If you have a control burn, please, if you can't remember the 10-digit number to call, just dial 911, let us know it's a control burn so that we can mark it and not send folks to that particular fire.
And another thing with 911, Tom, and we can do this, we have the capability is to rebid the call and everything and pinpoint people's locations, but it's very important to know what your 911 address is. I remember people would give you, you go to the Blue Barn, make a left, and sometimes that still happens today, but it's very important to know your 911 address because it's in the system for a reason.
Yeah, like you alluded to, we can locate wireless calls, but with all technology, there may be a time that we can't pinpoint where you're at. So yes, please know what your 911 address is. Everyone in this county has a 911 address, and same with the surrounding counties. If you don't know what it is, give us a call. We'll be more than happy to help you out with it.
And something that's very important, Tom, is to teach children how to use 911 because, sometimes both parents work away from home, and older children are at home by themselves, especially this time of the year with school being out. And if there is an emergency, they need to know, they can push 911, but they need to remember, stay calm if you can. I know everybody gets excited, adults, but children especially might not know exactly what to say in a 911 call situation.
Whenever you have an issue like that, just tell us what the problem is. We're going to ask you where your emergency is and what it is. What we try to do is provide the caller with pre-arrival instructions to what to do prior to the ambulance or the fire department or the police department getting there. A lot of folks don't know when to call. Whenever you have an emergency, please call. If you have someone's having chest pain or you have a fire, no matter what type of fire it is, those are the types of calls that needs to be made. One thing I can't stress enough is 911 hang-up calls. If someone calls 911 accidentally, don't hang up the phone. Just stay on the phone and tell us that it's an accidental call. We'll ask you what your name is and what your location is. We need to know that. But if you hang up the call, we're going to call you back, or we're going to send the police department or someone to check on you to make sure everything's fine.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of safety tips out there to remember on 911, Tom, as well as, always refer to the number as 911, not 911. And why is that? Is there a specific reason for that?
Well, a lot of people, believe it or not, whenever we were talking about 911, they couldn't find the 11 on the keypad. So we want everyone to understand it's 911. But those are the types of things that we run into.
Mm-hmm.
There is no 11 on your keypad, so it's 911.
And another thing too, when someone has a 911 address, especially if they're new and they move into the area, all they have to do is call you, and you'll make sure that you give them the proper address for 911. And how do you determine that? Like, north, south, east, west. How do you determine the numbers?
We use what's called a grid system. We didn't name our roads. A lot of counties have named the roads. We use a grid system where we name the roads by numbers, and it starts in the southwest portion of the county. The very southwest corner is 000 north, 000 east. And as far as you go north, it counts up. The farther west the farthest east you go, the numbers add up. So that's how we determine where the location is.
And, and house numbers, they need to make sure that they're clearly visible from the street, so when you send a police, fire, and ambulance, it's easy for them to locate the address, because that's the first thing they're going to look for, because that's the first thing they're given, along with what information they need to arrive on the scene.
One thing that we do have in Wayne County is we provided a placard for everyone who lives in an unincorporated area, and we have really good compliance with that. We have more trouble with folks who live in an incorporated village or the city without putting their numbers on their house. It just makes life easier for everyone, and we encourage folks to go ahead and do that so that at 3 o'clock in the morning we can find you.
When you live in a home, that's ground level, that's not a problem. But, Tom, if you live in an apartment building, it's important to remember your apartment number and the floor you live on, especially if your child has to dial 911. If you're the parent and you get in a medical situation and your child needs to dial 911, they need to know that information, don't they?
Yes, they do. And really, for the most part, most children know how to dial 911 as taught. Or we ran into problems with is for years, everyone had a 10-digit phone number, and that was something that you committed to memory. But now, please dial 911. We have locating abilities that we can utilize to save valuable time.
And it's also important, too, to keep a list of emergency numbers handy near each phone for, especially your children and her babysitter. That way you'll know who to contact and what department, which, if you dial 911, you're pretty well going to get the correct department where you live at. But it's always important to keep those numbers handy, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Poison control, mom and dad's phone number. But if you have an emergency, don't hesitate to dial 911.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this, Tom. You've been a 911 operator for a long time, and we're under stress quite a bit in those situations. But what's the most toughest 911 call you've had to handle so far at this point?
Any call dealing with a child is kryptonite for any Superman. Any police officer, any firefighter, any EMT, any 911 dispatcher, a child call is our kryptonite. We try to provide pre-arrival instructions to folks what to do prior to the ambulance getting there, fire department, whatever the case may possibly be. We can talk you through CPR. We can talk you through childbirth. Whatever the situation is, we will keep you on the phone and talk you through that. We try to stay as calm as we can, and if we just try to keep our callers as calm as we possibly can. I know it's a stressful situation for them. It's a family member, and we understand that. But we do our best to help out the folks.
You know, I remember a 911 call here recently that I took that involved an 8-year-old girl, and her mommy was having a seizure. And that's what she said, my mommy having a seizure. And, you know, the first thing you have to find out is where mommy is at. And she was able to tell me mommy's outside. And mommy is breathing. And she just offered up her 911 address. She says, I live at so-and-so, so-and-so. And it was like, wow, you know, that's parents that's educated their child pretty good on 911. Wouldn't you think, Tom?
Yes, I believe so. And the schools really do a good job with utilizing 911. And we got to give them a shout out for doing that. We're really pleased with the compliance of the 911 signs and things of that nature. We encourage people, if you see a road sign down or something that's not right with it, to give us a call so that we can take care of that, because those are precious minutes that we don't need to waste.
We're with Tom Windland. He's the director of Wayne County 911 this morning here on the Vine Morning Show. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more with Tom just after 9 o'clock. And Tom, text to 911, that's pretty important now.
We are actually live with text to 911 in Wayne County. We don't advertise it because we would much rather talk to you on the phone. The slogan is call when you can, text when you can't. It is new technology, but the technology is here. It's going to get better with time. But please call when you can, text when you can. If you have a situation where it's a domestic type violence where you don't want to be on the phone, by all means, text 911, and we will get you as help as soon as we can. Now, not all counties is text to 911 capable. That's relatively new technology that's coming out, but you're going to see it more and more as time progresses.
With Tom this morning here on the Vine Morning Show, and we'll come back and continue just after 9 o'clock as we're heading into the 9 o'clock hour right here at Real Life Radio.
This is your home.
That is music from the Planet Shakers here at Real Life Radio, 105.5 and 90.9 The Vine. Their song, I Know Who You Are. It is 9:09. And we welcome you back to the Vine Morning Show on a Wednesday morning on our YouTube channel as well and on cable TV channel 15. I'm Mark. It's great to have you along. And Tom is with us in the studio. Tom Windland, the director of Wayne County 911. And Tom, and also, if you have a question, we're going to open up the phone lines here in a moment. If you have a question for Tom concerning 911, if you'd like to speak to him and just ask a question, you can call us up at 618-895-3030. 618-895-3030. We'll put you on the air, and Tom will answer any question that you might have concerning 911, right, Tom?
We'll give it a whirl.
We'll give it a whirl. You know, Tom, people, when you think of 911, it works differently from different types of phones. It's the PSAP, which is the center that give the acronym for PSAP. What's it stand for?
Public Safety Answer Point.
Mm-hmm. And it gets different locations, information from each type of phone, right?
Right. Basically what happens is whenever a person dials 911, it goes through it's called a selective router, and it determines where the call is coming from, and it provides us with the location on the screen in front of us. In our dispatch center, we have 19 screens or 19 monitors inside the facility. We utilize 6 of them simultaneously, and the other ones are pretty much for just different things. Our PSAP, which is a Public Safety Answer Point, is located at the Fairfield Police Department. We are backed up by the Edwards County 911 or the Edwards County Sheriff's Department. So if for some reason we're on a 911 call and we get multiple calls, it will roll to them. They will take the information and get it back to us. Same with their folks. If they're busy on a call and you're in Edwards County and it rolls over, we will take the call and give you the information, take the information we need, and we'll send it back to Edwards County so that you'll be dispatched appropriately.
And when you put it together a 911 system, and each month you have to get together with those that are on the board, and you've got a very supportive board, Tom, that backs 911 system because you work together with the system, and then you give them updates that, okay, if we need this is what we need to do, right?
Right. We have Scott Clark. He's the chairman of the Emergency Telephone Services Board. He's the fire chief here in Wayne City. David Vaughn is the vice chairman. He's the Fairfield Rural Fire Department chief. Sheriff Mike Everett is the secretary of the Emergency Telephone Services Board. Our board members are Keith Callclaser. He's the chief of police of the city of Fairfield. We have Norman McKinney. He's the mayor of Mount Airy. He's on the board as well. Don Barrett, who is the ambulance coordinator in Sisney, he's on the board. And then our Wayne County board member that sits on our board is Royce Carter. We also have an assistant to the chairman, and she has a title of assistant coordinator, and that's Cindy Grimes. A few years ago, way back in, probably 2011, 2012, Cindy and I took a tour of Wayne County, and we did the addressing for the whole county. We physically laid eyes on most of the properties whenever we were given these addresses.
And when you think of, okay, how many people staff the 911 center? It's a 24/7 operation, Tom, and there's a lot of training goes into 911 there with the people that make up not only you being the director, but the ones that answer the phone, right?
There's 4 dispatchers that answer the phone. We're all certified in police, fire, and EMS dispatch. Those are Jody Clark. He works the swing shift. Brad Moore is the 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. dispatcher. I am the 1 to 9 p. dispatcher, and you, sir, are the 9 p. to 5 a. And for those of you who have scanners, I am the voice of the 6 o'clock test.
Every night. That's required. That's an FCC requirement, isn't it, Tom?
We must make sure that our equipment works properly, and that's how we chose to do it. In most departments, we also make announcements for them and things like that. So it works out really well for us.
Let's talk here for a moment and about this. When we as 911 operators, there are some facts out there that 911 operators wish that the public knows, Tom, real quick, that when you call in 911, it can be frustrating, number one, and you want action to happen really quick. But we ask questions, and we're not causing delays. We have to know that we know the right emergency teams to find you as fast as possible. So these questions are very important that we ask you as far as your address, phone number that pops up in front of us, double phrasing, because there's a lot of streets out there that can sound confusing if we want to confirm where your location is, right?
And whenever a person's under stress, you may know where you live, but if you transpose a couple of those numbers, we could be sending responders to the wrong location. We do have the equipment that's in place to verify your location if you call from a landline phone. Now, if you call from a cell phone, which most folks are going to cell phones, as I alluded to a while ago, there's about 4,000 or 4,200 landline phone lines in the county, but the rest of them are all cellular phones. Sometimes the system does not work as well with a cellular phone. Now, if you're outside, obviously we can find you, but if you're inside a metal building or a mobile home or something like that, that's going to spray that signal, and it's going to cause us some problems.
If you're on, as you mentioned, everyone's going to a cell phone now. And if you call 911 from a cell phone, it's best to describe your location in detail, any landmarks, a nearby lake, bridge, building, even include the city and state. Because, Tom, there are sometimes we get 911 calls from areas outside of our jurisdiction.
Right. And what cell phones do is it looks for the closest cell tower that's not busy. So if you're on the interstate, you could hit a tower in Hamilton County, you could hit one in White County or Jefferson County or Edwards County or If the weather's just right and the clouds are right, you could hit one in Indiana. So that's very important to know your location and where you're at.
You know, and there's another truth about 911 calls, too, that dead air doesn't mean your call was disconnected, does it?
Right. Sometimes we try to keep you alerted to the fact whenever you call 911 that we're on the phone with you, but we may be doing something else like dispatching the call or sending driving directions to the emergency responders. And we do that by the system that we have, and we send those directions to their cellular telephones or their smartphones or their computers in their vehicles and stuff like that, so that they know where you're at. And we try to get that information, but we would also like to keep the caller informed that we're taking care of it. We get some folks who, most people, whenever they call 911, they're having a really bad day. They're not having a real good time and say, hey, could you come over and send somebody over to have cookies with me? They're kind of busy. Yeah. It's a stressful situation, and we understand that. We as dispatchers are professionals. We try to stay as calm as we can. We feel for the people that's having the emergency. We want to get you help, but there is certain things that we have to make sure that we send the help to the right location. And we do provide you with pre-arrival instructions prior to the ambulance getting there, so that you can help your loved one take care of that person until help gets there.
You know, and something else about 911, it's just not for every call, is it, Tom? There are do's and don'ts with 911. Not all calls qualify for a 911 call, right?
If it's a non-emergent thing, if someone broke into your home 2 days ago, please don't call 911. Use the 7-digit number or the 10-digit number to get you help there. Power outages, please don't call 911. If you get a busy signal and you call whoever your service provider is and you want to report that, most of the service providers around here now have equipment in place that they pretty much know that you're out of power before you know, or pretty close to the same time as you do. Loud parties and things like that, those are non-emergent calls. Please just utilize the 10-digit phone number. But for any police call or any police emergency that someone's hurt or someone could be hurt, please utilize that number. Any ambulance call, please call 911. Any fire call, please call 911. Those are the numbers that we need. But if you cannot remember what the 10-digit phone number is, we're not going to yell and scream at you if you dial 911 for something. That's what it's there for. Please utilize it. We want to get you help as quickly as we can, but please please be aware that we may ask you questions that you may or may not want to answer, but we need that for the responders so that they can get better prepared to take care of your loved one prior to their arrival.
You know, what's important with around 911, Tom, at this time of the year is with all these triple digits we're having of the heat index and everything. You know, if you have someone that's in, maybe an elderly resident or something, go check on them. And if you have to, dial 911 for that fact. That's very important at this time of the year.
Right. We do welfare checks every day. The police department does. If you have a loved one that needs to be checked on or a neighbor, they don't respond to you, please give us a call. We'll ask someone to go check on them for you.
911, it's very important. And if there's so many things out there, people that want to educate themselves on 911, Tom, there's a lot of resources out there they can go to, right?
Sure. If schools or daycares that want some information, giveaways and things like that, I have that in my office. I'm available to you. You can either call the Fairfield City Police Department or you can call my office number. We're listed in the phone book, and we will try to get you that information. We are available to come out and visit with folks. If they have a need for us to come and talk about what we do, we'd be more than happy to do that as well.
And you were talking earlier about missed dials. A lot of cell phones now have that 911 button on them, Tom, and we get a lot of 911 cell phone hang-ups. And we'll call you back and verify there is no problem and just cooperate. That's the main thing.
Right. We get a lot of pocket dials. People have that in their back pocket or whatnot, and be walking along, and I've listened to many walks over the course of the few years that we've been live, and we will call you back. And you may also get a text from us. It'll say from 911. It's not a joke. We're actually texting you back to make sure that everything's fine. But please don't hesitate to let us know that it's not an emergency, and it was a pocket dial. So,
and a lot of kids dial 911 by accident too, and the parents, they're worried their children are going to get in trouble. It's not about getting in trouble. We just want to make sure that you or your children are not in any danger, and that's why the verification is so important.
Right. And one thing I'd like to stress is whenever parents get new cell phones and they give their cell phone to their child to play with, please take the battery out of it. That thing is still live. It will still call 911. And that's another thing. If you have a cell phone that for some reason the service is disconnected to it, you can still dial 911 from that phone. We will not get a callback number with it, but you can still utilize 911. And the activation chip for the GPS still activates whenever you dial 911, so hopefully we can utilize our equipment to locate where that call's coming from.
Tom, it's been a pleasure having you on this morning as we've been talking about 911 and how important it is and how valuable it is no matter where you live in what community.
Well, thank you, Mark, for having me over.
You're welcome, my friend, and my coworker, Tom Windland, Director of Wayne County 911, with us this morning here on the Vine Morning Show.